Hello and welcome to Positively United. Some days it's a lot easier to be positive than others, and some days it's actually quite difficult. And today is sadly one of those days. Um, I want to talk about what's happened to Dorgu, and I also want to talk about how an incident like Dorgu's injury can be used to create what I think is an ongoing problem with Manchester United, which is synthetic generated YouTube content done for clicks and likes, which actually bears no relation to reality. So let's start with the truth. Let's start with something that's actually happened. And very sad it is too. United announced today that Patrick Dorgu is going to be out for between 8 and 10 weeks with a hamstring injury, which was, I think it has to be said, probably about the worst end of the spectrum that we were expecting after seeing him come off the pitch on Sunday. Obviously, he came off on Sunday in a game against Arsenal, having scored that magnificent goal and playing so well. He came off holding the back of his leg, and it seemed like maybe he had a hamstring injury. And then the advice we got, I think, from the club was it was more likely cramp or something like that. But what's happened today is they've announced it is a hamstring injury, and it's serious enough to warrant him being out for 8 to 10 weeks. Well, first of all, let's start at where we should start, which is how sad it is for Patrick himself. And nothing but commiserations to you, Patrick. Just when he was coming into his own, this new setup clearly suits him down to the ground. He's been playing as a left winger or a left-sided advanced midfielder, and he's been absolutely smoking it. He scored against City and played a fabulous game against City. Obviously scored that fantastic goal against Arsenal, the second goal for us on Sunday. And apart from a slightly, stressed first maybe 15, 20 minutes, played an outstanding game as well. Man of the match for many people, including me. Really sad to see him out with such a long injury in the circumstances. Huge blow to him, coming into his own, proving any doubters he had wrong. Remember, Ruben Amorim said he was playing with fear and he was playing within himself. Look, I think Dorgu's been absolutely superb I actually think he's done really well all season. I think what he's doing now is exceptional. So I never really bought into the fact that, he was at any time playing badly or wasn't performing to. He's a young lad. He's going to learn as he plays. He's going to learn the trade as he goes along. I thought everything he's done this season has been perfectly acceptable, but recently it's been beyond acceptable. It's been in the realms of fantasy almost, what he's been doing. So for him personally, big blow. And of course, it's a blow to United. Pressing for a Champions League place. That team Carrick put out against City and against Arsenal, I don't expect that to be the team he puts out against Fulham. Not at all. But I expected Dorgu to be playing left wing. I expected Dorgu to be the left of those advanced midfielders because I think he's made the position his own. So to see him out of a team for such a long period of time is a big blow to United. It's a big blow to our chances of qualifying for the Champions League. But then, after that had been announced today, one thing you might have noticed is that there were several YouTube channels who jumped onto the opportunity that it offered, which was in a sense to create a false narrative around what is now going to happen in the January transfer window. So, some outlets started to put out that what this was now going to lead to was a panic buy by Ineos. Ineos would panic in the January transfer window and would now feel compelled to go out and buy either a left winger or a left fullback. Right. Why is that? Because there's no evidence that Ineos will do such a thing. The only thing we've got any real, is it evidence or is it long-standing speculation about, is that United need a midfielder. That's a clear and present need. You know that against Arsenal on Sunday, If Carrick had wanted to substitute Mainu or wanted to substitute Casemiro, probably more likely Casemiro, because we know he sometimes has problems getting beyond, say, 70 minutes or whatever. You know that Carrick was reluctant to do so because he looks at his bench and the only obvious person to bring in is Ugarte. And look, we don't want to be mean, but Ugate's not up to it. So there's a clear need in midfield for a stopgap midfielder. Somebody who can add depth between now and the end of the season. And I just don't get, by the way, the pushback on that idea. Oh, we can't. Why should we buy a stopgap midfielder? That's short-term thinking. You know, I thought Ineos were all about long-term planning and all this sort of stuff. You can have a long-term plan that still requires from time to time some tactical short-term decisions to be made. And this is one of them. We know that our big three targets for midfield are not going to be available until the summer. Baleba, Wharton, Anderson. They're not going to be available until the summer. So we can't plug the gap with one of them. But Ndidi, for example, who apparently has been offered to United, I still think the most likely thing the United will do between now and the end of the January transfer window is either to do nothing or bring in Ndidi or someone very similar as a temporary stopgap to fill a clear and present need in midfield. But that narrative was concocted today that Ineos were going to give up on that idea completely and we're going to go instead for a left winger or a left full back. The reason being that now because Dorgu is out for 8 to 10 weeks. And this is a perfect example of a story that is concocted to simply create division and heat and conflict and argument and, frankly, an anti-Ineos atmosphere. Now, I've repeatedly said on this channel, I would love to see the Glazers out of the club. But I don't know if I've made this clear enough. I don't have any animosity towards Ineos. I think they've made mistakes. But I believe genuinely that their heart is absolutely in the right place. And they've always been focused on improving the football at this club. And I think they're actually succeeding. Let me give an example. The way that we will react to Dorgu not being available for 8 to 10 weeks is not to go out and panic buy a left winger or a left full back. And why is that? Well, because our squad is immeasurably stronger than it was before Ineos arrived. Yes, maybe 2 years ago, that's exactly what we would have done. But now we don't have to do it. Why? Well, the emergence of Dorgu as a viable left winger had actually created a nice problem for United. And as you haven't noticed, Matheus Cunha has been on the bench for the last 2 games. Yes, he's come on as a substitute in both and has contributed brilliantly in both games on Sunday, magnificently with that superb third goal. But he started on the bench, and that's because Dorgu was keeping him out. Now that Dorgu is not available for the next 8 to 10 weeks, surely all that happens is that Cunha comes in as a starter. And between him and Mbeumo and Diallo, there's a kind of infinite amount of permutations that could be put in place. Mbeumo could go on the right, Ahmad could go in the left, Cunha could go as the forward, or Šeško could be the forward. Remember, Šeško's been on the bench for the last 2 games. Or Mason Mount could play on the left. He's been on the bench for the last 2 games. When it comes to the left wing position, yeah, it's a real blow that Dorgu isn't available. But we have plenty of quality options that can be used for the next 8 weeks. There is no crisis at left wing. None whatsoever. None. But what if you think about Dorgu as a left back. So let's say, for example, Shaw is injured. Who plays at left back? So surely we need to go out and get a panic buy left back. Really? Well, surely all you would do if Shaw becomes now injured is you could play Dalot there and then put Mazraoui as right full back, which is frankly what most of us want to see anyway. If you don't want to put Dorgu as left back, you could put Leacher as left back, and you could bring in Aiden Heaven in as centre back as a replacement, or Lenioru. De Ligt might be fit at some stage this season. And then, if the worst comes to the worst, on the bench, you've got Malacia. So where's the panic for left back? There isn't one. Again, there is loads of options that can be used at left back. But no, in order to create fanciful content today, we have YouTubers completely inventing a scenario and then attributing Ineos with panic for pursuing that non-existent scenario. See how it works? One of the reasons I set up this channel was I wanted to reflect on it, a common sense approach where you don't create content for spurious likes and clicks. It's grounded, down-to-earth content, hopefully rooted in reality. A dreadful day for YouTube influencers and content creators today, because they literally took the really unfortunate story of a player suffering an injury and turned it into content to bash the club. Despicable. Real transfer news, if it can be called that. Not really much happened today. I'm not going to talk about the summer transfer news anymore because that is now so far away and it's so speculative. Why even bother? We've got virtually, I think it was less than a week now to the end of the January transfer window. And it really does seem that the only game in town there is Ndidi. I actually hope it happens. I really do, because I think we really genuinely need strength in depth in the midfield. Does it have to be the perfect signing? Of course it doesn't, because it's never going to be at this stage in January. We know our perfect signings are there for the taking in the summer. And by the way, if United don't get those signings in the summer, if we don't get 2 of those 3 target midfielders, I'll be criticising United and I'll be criticising Ineos. But until then, I'll let them carry out their plan. So no, it doesn't have to be the perfect signing. It will be a loan signing if it's going to be anything. And does the player have to play every single game? No. The player can sit on the bench between now and the end of the season and come on with half an hour, 25 minutes, 20 minutes left to relieve the pressure on Casemiro and Mainu. The way that Mainu has played the last 2 games, my feeling is that Mainu is now going to get through 90 minutes of every game. Excuse me. Casemiro is the issue. I just can't see him lasting 90 minutes every game between now and the end of the season. Plus, although we are only playing 17 more games, is it 17 or 16? One of the two. I think it would be wise not to play Casemiro in every single one of those games. There's got to be an opportunity to bring somebody else on and give him a rest. And that would be a perfect opportunity for a character like Ndidi to come on and play alongside Mainu. So yeah, I hope it happens. But if it doesn't happen, there are other options already in the squad. And we should look at those. But I hope it happens. I really do. Anyway, that's it for today. If you like the video, please hit the like button. If you like what I do on this channel, please subscribe. If you've got a friend who you think would would like what I do here, please let them know about the channel too and encourage them to subscribe as well. If you'd like to donate in any way, however small, to the costs of the channel, I really will be upgrading the technology as soon as I can. Feel free to donate, however small, doesn't really matter. Grateful for anything. Set up a Ko-fi account. There's a link in the description. So until the next time we meet, remember to always try to be positively united.